very glad that in this time, what's changed is that more of you are understanding there's nothing to fix. What has happened in the last 24 hours in your country in particular is an understanding from many of you who have not bypassed but have moved forward without needing circumstances around you to change, knowing that you all are sovereign on your own. The new earth and the new human is that. It's a sovereign land, a sovereign state of being, a place where no one needs to understand or have rules because you alone determine what's moving and what isn't moving. You are co-creators of all of it. No one needs to tell you how, you know how. No one needs to tell you when, you know when. That is the new earth and that is the new human. The new human understands there's nothing to be done here, just a change in perspective. An inner knowing and allowing that knowing to move you forward and a co-creating from that place. And what we are seeing is a shift in that direction. It isn't with turmoil or some destruction to the current structure of things, but it will not affect those that understand that they alone hold the power to move things forward.
Could you explain more about there is nothing to do?
The current system that you're in, there's no fixing it. There's no changing it. Everything has been done here. Everything that a human can do in structuring themselves and governing themselves, it's all been done. And it hasn't been done to everybody's best interest. So there isn't anything to fix. Your government as it structures, the governments as they're structured, are not really in the best interest of all. The new human understands that. No one needs to be controlled or corralled or brought together. Separately, individually, you all know that by yourselves. It's how you're programmed. It's how we're all programmed. It's an understanding. It's a knowing you are here by your own free will. This is something you've decided. Nothing needs to be constructed for you to live here. You decide. You create. So nothing here needs to be fixed. No election will fix it. No new government will fix it. No new leader will fix it. You are to lead yourselves. There is a way for humans to live in the world peacefully. It's just there's so much fear and so much divide. And that part is what keeps you wanting to fix something that is broken and cannot be fixed.
So when we talk about governance, from the very human perspective, living in a society that has certain expectations that include governance structures, the shifting to not that way of being, as you talk about the new human and the new earth, how can you provide an example of what this looks like or how this manifests the actual transition?
There is nothing that the human needs. There are no material things that would ever feed you to give you that which you are missing. What you are missing is a knowing of the self completely and fully. To get that, to achieve that, nothing needs to be gained. There only needs to be an understanding of who you really are individually. From that place of needing nothing, you can create smaller communities, smaller ways of being to work together to achieve that, which doesn't come with a price tag, which is where you've missed the mark over and over again, and why there's always a divide, because you believe that if some have, then you won't. So you're protecting yourselves at all costs for no reason, because the things that you want will never give you the fulfillment that you're looking for. And as long as humans know that and can understand that and start to realize that as more of you wake up, the less you'll need for structure, the more you'll rely on yourself to get what you need. You need very little. You just don't know it. You don't need huge structures to live in. You don't need massive amount of land. Some of you can live together in smaller communities and be just happy, have a fulfilled life. Do everything that your heart desires, that your soul came here to experience. But you're missing that because There's so many other programmings in the way. The new human isn't controlled or ruled by the programming. It's creating the life that it wants aside from that. Understanding that that's the structure all around you, but wanting nothing to do with that programming anymore. You will walk the land as an example. You will walk the land. You will walk on this planet. You will walk with yourself, knowing that nothing here can provide you the fulfillment you're looking for. That nothing here, no achievement based here, is going to give you anything. The only real achievement that needs to be done here is love. You guys have missed that. There is nothing outside of that. How it's constructed is not for us to say. Our only goal in speaking to you and coming through Carolyn is for you to understand you need nothing. You, the individual, needs nothing. Your soul came here to experience all that's already here, nothing outside of that. Be at ease knowing that your soul knows exactly what you need to have a fulfilled life, and it is based in no goals, but only to experience itself here, over and over and over again. You've been programmed to believe otherwise. So we come here with no goals for you, only the hopes that you would understand yourself better.
It seems like this could be challenging for people to move into that release of programming, because we have this, I don't know if it's the meaning of life, like what does it all mean? We have to have a purpose. Like, what would you say to a person then who says, well, I just don't know what to do about all this that I see as a problem, and I don't feel the new humanness part emerging fast enough for me to be comfortable? What would you give as guidance to that?
We would say that's the perfect place to start. That's the perfect place to surrender. That's the perfect place to let go. The troubles for you to try to sort out are too big. But that is exactly where you start to go within. Crises on your planet, crisis for the human, challenges for the human are exactly the points in where you get to choose. Are you going to continue to stay in the programming, or are you going to remove yourself and find solace within yourself? That is the perfect place to start. In fact, it's only going to get worse because you keep trying to fix it. This is where you start. Surrender. There is nothing for you to do. You've all proven that today. As hard as you've worked to make changes in your country, most things haven't changed. In fact, it seems that the divide has gotten bigger. Yourself, you as you are in the current structure, isn't going to change anything. But you, as you perceive yourself and perceive the world around you, changes everything. It's only a matter of perception, not a matter of circumstance. You all continue to live under the programming that the circumstances are the problem, but not how you see the circumstance. The circumstance are the tipping points. This is where you choose. Surrender.
So would this be like, if you have a shift in perspective, that you begin to not see the opposition to whatever it is that you see yourself as, if you begin to not see it as oppositional, but rather integrated, then is that the kind of perspective shift that you're kind of referencing? Is that a way to understanding the perspective shift? Like the job is to change how you experience the world. Could you expand a little more about that?
Everything is only crisis, then crisis is all you'll see. If everything is an opportunity, then opportunity is what you see. But what is the opportunity? The opportunity is for you to not see the crisis, but see yourself as a small dot in the bigger world. And as you change, and as you see it as not a crisis, as you see it as an opportunity, then more people around you will see it as an opportunity for change. Not systematic, but within. That's what we're talking about, perspective. If all is a crisis and all is falling apart, more of that will be created. If it's an opportunity for you to break away from the programming, to break away from the illusion, to break away from the dream that is your planet currently, then more people will do that as well. Think of it this way. Think of it as a rip in the system. If you start and change your perspective and open that rip, and start to show others that there's another way of looking at it, another way of seeing, an opportunity to see things differently, then you now start to change the programming, that of a victim to that of a person co-creating. You don't have to be a part of the system. The system will not change. Get out of the system. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And it's very interesting because this year of 2020 has been full of massive interruptions to systemic operation, which has been very uncomfortable for people because the economic system, the education system, the governance system, the daily structure, all those systems were pretty much halted during that. Do you foresee a continued intense experience like 2020 has brought to continue to provide opportunity for these shifts to take place on the individual level?
Yes, this is only the beginning. You will continue to see this so that there's opportunity for more of you to wake up. It'll get to the point where so many of you just could not sustain this anymore. You could not sustain the constant drama, the terror, the violence, the fear, that you will unwillingly at some point, but then understanding the surrender. You will not be able to sustain it. You will not be able to live here with so much chaos and not try to find another way. So yes, it will continue to intensify. It will come in waves, but it will continue to stay this way. There's so many of you, and this is a good thing, that are just tired, and that's exactly what we want, and that's happening on a soul level. And that's why this is changing. That's why this is shifting. So many of you also came here to make this change. It's exactly what your purpose is here for. So it will continue to happen.
Are there different kinds of experiences, say for a younger individual, like the teenagers or the kids or early teens, early 20s versus the 60, 70, 80 years old? Is there a differing experience because of the energy that we came here to embody in terms of this process for each of those?
Do you mean, are they different? Are they here experiencing it differently, or both?
Is there kind of like a generational difference to the experience of the shift?
Yes.
Meaning, yes, okay.
The wonderful thing for the younger generation, including your teenagers and those still being born and those under the age of 10, that they will only know chaos. So they will work hard when they become sovereign beings to change that system, to do it differently. That's what they're here for. In fact, they are considered the cleanup crew because they will clean up what's remaining of the old structure and the old paradigm so that there is more harmony, more coherence here on Earth and the human experience here. They won't have the hangups of structure, of systems, of governance, of leadership. They will want it to be different because they will only know the chaos that came before them. They won't know that it worked for approximately 75 years or so. They won't know. They will only know that it isn't working and that they don't want to live like that. That's already happening, and it's a beautiful thing. We've been working with you, the humans, now for a little over 25 years to help you heal some of the generational things that have been keeping you in this programming. And so some of you are understanding that. And as you heal the generations after, you are already becoming sovereign with just your healing, which is why we emphasize that's so important, why we needed that to be the first start where you started to understand how you were all connected through trauma. they won't have that because so many of you are healing that trauma and those connections to the beginning of the programming and the beginning of treating each other with such callous. They won't have it. And so they will be more of the change. Unfortunately, those of you who are connected to the old paradigm and structures, you are bearing the brunt of all the changes that need to happen. But you know what you were signing up for. So
You talk about the becoming sovereign, or recognizing, I guess would be more of a truth, that you are sovereign. What does a sovereign being like look like? What is becoming sovereign?
take the animals in your planet. They're sovereign beings. They are not hung up on structure, or they're not told where to live, where to roam, how to eat. They are here having an experience, and when it's over, it is over. They don't have the wonderful nature that you do to co-create the experience, but they are here.
So, in terms of, I guess the word that kind of comes to mind then is in nature, the survival of the fittest paradigm, which is that survival is the driving, like you would say, your root chakra, survival, safety, feeding, your herd, or your pod, or your baby, very basic.
The human spirit is love. So we would
Um,
categorize it as survival. We would characterize it as experience. The sovereign being has nothing to lose. So it wouldn't worry about surviving. It would worry about cohesiveness. It would worry about that all beings are living here in a coherent way and harmony, that the land is being taken care of, so are the animals, that those who are needing food and shelter will have it. There is no separation. So there is no surviving, there's just experiencing. The way
okay.
the ecosystem is structured is that one species eats the other to survive, and that is part of the experiment here. But that doesn't mean that that's how the human is structured to live. You understand, if you allowed yourself to know your love, to know that no one needs to harm you, can harm you, because you are sovereign, because you chose this experience. Nothing here is happening to you, it's happening for you to maximize the experience you came here to have. This is the problem that we see on your planet, that you all think you have to survive an experience you chose to have. There's no surviving, it just is. It's just an experience. One that for many of you, you've had multiple times in every aspect of this planet. No surviving.
That's definitely a switch, to say the least, to our orientation, our predominant orientation, which is focused on those things because that's what society has indicated we need to focus on, with rather harsh outcomes, just like in nature, if you don't necessarily have your survival needs taken care of. So, what I hear you saying is that even if there is a situation that is what we would say negative, say a job loss or a death of a loved one or a terrible accident, or those kinds of things, that is really just the soul experience that you chose to have. It is not, I guess you would say, the be all end all, that it ended in what we would describe as a tragedy energy. It is not less valuable because of the nature of the experience. It is just to have been experienced.
That is so That is all.
Okay.
As simple as that sounds, that is all. It is just an experience. No tragedy to harm you, to punish you in any way, just an experience you chose to have at that particular moment in time. That is all. Now, we want to clear something up. There is DNA programming of fear, and that was made for your survival in the wilderness, but not intended to be used in every aspect of your life, not to be analyzed, not to analyze every aspect of your life. The fear was used as an indicator where you needed to move away from possible physical danger. It has now been used for the human as you evolve to worry about every aspect, worries and anxiety and fear that are warranted, that are needed for there to be a fulfilling experience. Nothing again is happening to you, is happening for you. The fear is a programming that was an indicator for your physical danger, but not something to be used in day to day life to analyze over every little bit of information that you are receiving as you're having this experience. And there has been where the breakdown lies. And there has been where the programming started. And there has been where the separation has happened. And there is where things have to change.
Mm-hmm. That
And the
makes sense.
human has no fear because it doesn't fear what it knows to be true, that there is no end, just another version, another perspective, another way of seeing yourself. If you can see yourself as a sovereign, infinite being, there's no end, there's no fear, just experiences.
So when you act on a framework of being sovereign, can you describe more like what that would look like in like a practical day-to-day typical American life?
You need nothing. You need no outside validation. You need not to amount wealth or things. You need to just be here in the moment as things are happening for you. You need to also understand that you co create every moment of every day. Your thoughts determine that. So if your thoughts are based in fear and anxiety and worry, then that is what you'll experience. A sovereign being in day to day life understands that every moment brings about an opportunity for a new experience and a new way of being. The best way for the human to experience that is to always be in the present moment and to always be at peace with whatever the present moment brings. And from this place, from a real place of surrender and peace, can you co create a life that's meaningful? Not a life that's meaningful, again, based on material needs, because it will never give you what you need and never fulfill you in the moment, but one where you experience things. Now, let's say, for instance, that this experience you want to have does require money, then you will have that money for that said experience, but only for that said experience and nothing more. Where we see the breakdown in this present moment and this manifesting that you all are now understanding and understanding the law of attraction is that you not only want to experience things in the present moment, you want to guarantee that you will continue to have these experiences over
Mm,
and over and over again. And there, you're no longer in the present moment. You're now thinking about the future. Now, the future will make you happy, and how that's more important than just being in the moment.
mm,
The moment is all that matters because as we're in the moment, we are creating. You can't create what's not here. So just create in this moment. If
mm.
you want to have a particular experience that requires some planning, then you keep a focus on that one specific things, not on 10, but just the one. Because what happens then is you're again no longer in the present moment. You're now focused on 10 different things that you would like to see happen. And so the moment is lost. And so where to focus becomes a problem.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes very much sense. It's a lot less complicated, it seems, although it's complicated to make the switch, but just being in the now moment and being with what is in front of you is a lot less than what most of us typically do, which is project and review at the same time while being in a now moment. We're also split to future and past experiences.
And therein lies your struggles. And also why you keep everything so close to your chest, and why you don't share, and why you're divided in fears. Who's going to come and take it? Who will ruin this? Who did it the last time? Who will do it the next time? How can I protect it? And again, you're lost, no longer in the moment, no longer in peace.
Can you speak to the frequency of love in
That is
terms of this this new earth, new human related to that?
so as in the most basic form, and explaining your sovereignty, it is that. It's the frequency of love, is knowing that if there is any possession to have and to hold closely and dearly and love, is your frequency of love, is your frequency of spreading that love. That it means to be sovereign. There's nothing outside of you. You have everything, every experience, every emotion, everything you could ever want. You have it in the frequency of love. You give it to yourself over and over again. You're patient over and over again. You're okay with your neighbors and whatever it is that they choose to do, however they choose to have the experience, however they want to show up. That is the frequency of love. You don't need anyone to tell you how. You already know. It's seamless. It's the best way to describe it. It just is. You are that. We all are. We've just forgotten.
And the hardest, the most extreme opposition of where we envision ourselves is then the hardest thing to love. So, is there any guidance on the challenge of being in a state of extreme polarity as presented through one experiential lens, and using a different lens that says all is love, and my neighbor who is opposite to me is also love? Is there any practical guidance for navigating sovereign while experiencing then other sovereign and anti-use, if that makes sense?
Yes. If you can imagine that most of you are stuck in a dream, stuck in an illusion, but on the other side of that illusion is someone just like you, looks just like you, breathes just like you, bleeds just like you, is infinite just like you, is made and from source. If you can see that beyond the dream, there is a soul, and that soul is just like you can see beyond whatever divide you're having. But that first has to be something you are reflecting. That's first something you have to be experiencing yourself. So rather than worry about how other people are conducting their affairs, it's best to focus on yourself and how you are viewing not only the world, but yourself. How you see yourself is how you will experience the world. So rather than worrying about what your neighbor or coworker or the person down the street is doing, feeling, and being and saying, worry about and focus on why you care. Where is the trigger for you? Where do you need healing, and how can you see things differently? To be sovereign means that you need no one to understand you. You need no one to validate. You need nothing because you already know you are everything. So no one needs to know, no one needs to understand. There is no explaining, there's just being. And if you can just be and be comfortable there with yourself, then you are comfortable letting anybody be, even in whatever untruths that they're living in, whatever darkness they're living in. You can allow them to be there because that is what their soul is choosing to experience right now.
Yes, that makes sense as well. Are there any other important aspects to understand about the new earth and the new human?
The misunderstanding about the new earth is something that will happen to you. This is something that you are going to create, you individually by yourself. It is the feeling that you have been feeling for the last week or so, a feeling of complete peace and surrender and rest. That's what the new earth feels like. There's no struggle. just a being, just at peace in the moment, every moment as it comes. Sometimes those moments bring you ideas and direction. Sometimes they don't. That is the new earth. The new earth is not an illusion of creating. It is just a power of being. And if the new human can achieve that under the 3D construct, then it can live in peace in the 5D consciousness. Understand its consciousness. You are matter, but how you perceive is consciousness. This isn't a location more than is an understanding, a knowing, a being. So there is no new earth that's going to fall upon you. This is something that you're going to achieve from within. And that means allowing others to be asleep in the dream if they want to be. That means allowing others to fix a world you already know can't be fixed. That means just allowing and you being there, quietly at peace, observing. That is sovereignty. You need nothing. You are everything.
I would say that it's very possible to feel uncomfortable or even guilty for moving into a different reality experience where there is peace. It can be challenging when you see everybody else, not in peace. And it's almost like we want to commiserate with our fellow mankind.
We find that to be the hardest part about the human structure right now, the commiserating, the needing to be understood, the wanting to be understood. We understand it's your nature to want to be a part of a tribe, to be a part of a group, but the commiserating is where we're stuck and not understanding why you wouldn't want to be the light, the beacon, and show another way. Being in that sovereignty, being quiet, being still, being at peace, being there. Even when you feel uncomfortable because no one understands, knowing that you sitting there can make the change. That you, as you sit there, day after day after day, someone will find that peace alluring and will be drawn to it and will want to sit with you in that peace. But if you move out of that consciousness because you want to appeal to others, because you want to belong, because you want to fit in, then light worker, you're not.
That makes sense too. I don't know that I have any other questions, but I'm open to receive anything else.
We know that it's difficult to move away from the programming, the conditioning, to move away from being understood, to feeling unheard. But that is what's necessary. That what needs to happen is to understand that the kingdom of heaven is within. All that you need is already here. There is nothing coming to happen. It already is. And some of you just have to be brave enough to stay there. Some of you are. And it's a beautiful thing. And it will get easier over time. It will. Know that that's the mission. You came here to hold the light. Just hold the light.